The movie starts by introducing us to a high school girl named Lynn. She's really pretty, loves reading romantic comics, and dreams about having a love story, just like the ones in her comics. She lives with her older brother, King, who runs a simple but popular restaurant known for its tasty food. King cares a lot about Lynn, even though he can be straightforward with his words. King has a son named Du who lives with them too. Du is only a bit younger than Lynn, and they go to the same high school. Du's big dream is to become a national athlete, so he works hard every day to make it come true. Lynn, on the other hand, often gets into trouble at school, especially when Du tries to protect her a lot, especially from guys who like her. Du always ruins their attempts to get close to Lynn because he loves her a lot. He's not shy about telling off anyone who's rude to Lynn. It turns out Du's dad, King, isn't very supportive of Du's dream to become an athlete. King wants him to take over the family restaurant since they don't have much money for college. But Du is determined and wants to be a successful runner. So he decides to leave home to chase his dream. Skipping ahead, after 4 years, Du finally gets a scholarship and goes to study in Bangkok. At the same time, Lynn finishes nursing school and becomes a physiotherapist in a hospital in Bangkok. But Du faces a setback in his dream of being a national runner when he doesn't do well in a test event at college. After failing the national running test, Du decided to quit college and start working in a supermarket alongside his friend Ammon. One day while working there, Du spotted Lynn shopping. She was with her co-worker Anne, who was very feminine despite being a strong-looking guy. Du got nervous and hid, fearing that Lynn might complain to his dad about him leaving college. At the supermarket, Lynn talked to Anne about her favorite romantic comic. She always wished for a love story as beautiful as the ones in the comics. Meanwhile, at the hospital where Lynn worked as a physiotherapist, she met a guy named Man. He was an indie musician, and he wanted Lynn to be his therapist. The thing was, Man had a crush on Lynn and was trying hard to win her over. He even flirted openly with her, which made Lynn uncomfortable. Despite this, Lynn remained professional during their therapy sessions. Man didn't stop at therapy. He tried to approach Lynn outside of work too. He even asked her to go supermarket shopping together. Man went to great lengths, like moving into the same apartment building as Lynn, just to be near her. This strange behavior worried Du, so he decided to move in with Lynn to protect her. He cared a lot about his auntie. Meanwhile, Lynn was trying to gently turn Man down by saying she liked athletic guys. This pushed Man to work on his fitness and muscles to win her heart. Around that time, Du visited Lynn's apartment with his friend Ammon and decided to stay there. Lynn was surprised and happy to see her nephew after so long. She didn't mind him staying at all. Du didn't talk much about his studies but mentioned he was working for a Japanese company. Not long after that, Lynn received a call from her brother King, who was asking about his son's whereabouts. Du, who was there at Lynn's apartment, asked her to keep quiet about him staying there, especially to his dad. From then on, Du stuck by Lynn's side, protecting her from guys who bothered her. Du even asked if she had a boyfriend or liked someone, but Lynn brushed it off, saying she's all grown up and can handle her love life on her own. At the hospital where Lynn worked, her co-worker Anne mentioned that a student was coming for research. Soon, they met Dr. Eek, a handsome and kind doctor, who made nurses' hearts flutter. Lynn clearly liked him, as she acted sweet and graceful around him. One day, Man showed up at Lynn's apartment and was surprised to find Du there. When he realized Du was Lynn's nephew, Man's attitude turned friendly, and he invited both Lynn and Du to eat together. However, the meal didn't go well, leaving Lynn and Du uncomfortable. The next day, Du helped Lynn at the hospital and met his college junior, Game. It turned out that Game was there for research too. This meeting revealed to Lynn that Du had left college during his second year. Lynn then showed Game a simple therapy technique, and it was obvious from his expression that he was quite taken by Lynn's beauty. Game asked Lynn to help him make a video tutorial on physical therapy, and she agreed. Meanwhile, Du saw Game getting close to Lynn and became really jealous and angry. His college junior, who had beaten him in the national running test, was now trying to get close to his beloved auntie. Later that night, Du went to talk to his manager at the supermarket. He suggested a plan to work together with Man to separate Game from Lynn. Following his manager's advice, Du met Man at a cafe where Man worked as a freelance musician. He started talking to Man about Game and Lynn's relationship, trying to provoke him. Man got angry upon hearing this and couldn't accept the idea of another guy getting close to the woman he admired. The next day, while Lynn and Game were having a therapy session in the park, Man suddenly approached them. He seemed annoyed to see them together. When Game asked Lynn about Man, she explained that he was just one of her patients. Finding out that Lin only saw him as a patient, despite everything he had done, Man left with a sad and disappointed look. Later on, Lin went to the supermarket where Du worked to find a bag she had left there. She was directed to the customer service officer, who handles lost items through chat. Unbeknownst to her, the customer service officer was actually Du, pretending to be someone else to continue talking to Lin. Their conversation went beyond the lost bag, and they started discussing other things. Du acted like a man in love, as he had secretly loved Lin for a long time. He couldn't reveal his feelings due to their brotherly relationship, though. Knowing that Lin loved romantic comics, Du steered the conversation in that direction. This made Lin feel comfortable, as she finally found someone who shared her interests. This was new for Lin, and she inexplicably felt a connection with the man she was chatting with, even though they had never met in person. To cut the long story short, Lin finally figured out that Du was the one working at the supermarket and chatting with her through customer service. She felt really let down by Du because he had played with her feelings. While having lunch with Game, Du suddenly showed up and interrupted them. He was still trying to keep other guys away from Lin. Seeing how overprotective Du was being, Lin got mad and firmly told him to back off from her business. She even warned that she wouldn't see him again if he kept following her and meddling in her matters. Lin insisted that Du should go back to college. One day, Lin went back to her hometown to talk to her brother King and spill the beans about Du's behavior. King wasn't too surprised and didn't seem to care much about his son's actions. However, King did seem concerned about a house-buying offer they received and wanted to discuss it with Lin. Even though Lin said she wasn't interested in any inheritance from their parents' house, King still felt the need to share a family secret with her. A few days later, during a test event for the national team runner qualifications, Du found himself cornered by Game. Game told him he wouldn't be able to succeed in the obstacle course, since it wasn't his strong suit. Despite Game's doubts, Du was determined to take the test, even if his performance in the first round didn't meet his expectations. As the second half of the test approached, an unexpected guest arrived, Du's father. He revealed a family secret to Du. It turned out that King wasn't actually Lin's brother. Instead, Lin was the daughter of the house and restaurant business owner, and King was the only employee. Even so, Lin's family treated him like their own son. When Lin's parents passed away, King promised himself that he would take care of and protect Lin, as if she were his own family. After realizing that the family bond he thought he had with Lin wasn't real, Du got more determined for the second round of the trial event and won it. When he saw Lin in the crowd watching, he went after her and finally confessed his hidden feelings of love. But when he revealed the family secret, Lin wasn't pleased at all. She now understood that King and Du weren't her real family, meaning she had been living all alone. This realization left her upset and disappointed. Once everything was out in the open, Lin felt really let down and decided to be on her own. She applied for a scholarship to study in England and cut off contact with Du. Before she left, she called King and thanked him for being kind and loving like family. King then informed Du about Lin's plans to go abroad. Hearing that Lin was leaving, Du hurried to the airport to stop her. He managed to catch up with her and apologized. Lin forgave him, but her determination to study in England remained. She explained that she wasn't mad at Du. She was just hurt and heartbroken after learning that she was all alone, unlike Du, who was relieved to find out they weren't related. Du shared that he had been carrying these unsaid feelings of love for years, and finally confessing them made him truly happy. He didn't care whether Lin reciprocated his love or saw him only as a nephew. What mattered most to him was having Lin by his side. He promised not to interfere if she wanted a boyfriend, because he wanted her to be happy. Lin was shocked by Du's words, but her decision to study in England remained unchanged. She left, leaving Du heartbroken as he watched the woman he loved depart. To sum things up, Lin has been living in England for a while now. She managed to put her troubles behind her and find inner peace. Along the way, she learned some important lessons. Real-life love stories aren't always as picture-perfect as the ones in comics. Love can be one-sided, and even if people love each other, circumstances might still keep them apart. Trying too hard for someone's love doesn't always work out, and sometimes love just happens unexpectedly. Lin doesn't worry about having a boyfriend anymore. She values her family the most now. On the flip side, Du chose to take over his father's diner business after finishing school. His relationship with his dad also got better. Eventually, Lin decided to return to King and Du because she realized that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the love and care they share. When Lynn finally reunited with Du after so long, they shared a tight hug. The movie wraps up with Du driving Lynn to work. During the ride, he playfully asks if she has a boyfriend yet. Lynn responds with a sweet smile, leaving the answer up to the imagination. The moral of the story is never try to win someone's heart by pretending to be a customer service officer at a supermarket. Just be yourself and let love happen naturally, minus the grocery store disguise.